Welcome to another California Guy video with your boy California Guy. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this all new video. This video is entitled Trump's Illegal War. Now, finally, Donald Trump has done it. He has started a war with a Middle Eastern country. This is Trump, Cheney, Bush, fourth term unofficially. Now, a lot of people, when Donald Trump ran for president last year, he ran as a change candidate. Now, this shows you how the American people think. American people, at one point, our country, we were innovators. People voted based on real change. Well, how do you define real change? Okay, real change is policy, strong policy that influences the United States of America, and it makes different changes. Now, America has went through many changes as of late. It went through many changes, and excuse me, I'm washing my cup out real quick because I'm making some coffee. And so sorry about that, people. But no, American people has went through different changes, and the country has went through changes. And so we people vote based on change. How do we define change? We went through several cycles of that since the inception of the Revolutionary War, all the way up to the modern civil rights era, to the Depression. When Franklin D. Roosevelt won his presidency in the early 30s, it was due to the Depression. It was for change, and the people voted because they wanted the economy to get moving, and they voted for Franklin D. Roosevelt. They didn't vote for Herbert Hoover no more. Hoover failed. They had the stock markets crashed, and the economy was damaged throughout the United States. But I'm not going to get into that history lesson. But let's fast forward to now. American people voted. Well, let's go back a little bit to history real quick. I said I was going to not go back into history. Let's go back to to George W. Bush. Now, through those 8 years of the Bush administration, people started to not like the policies of George W. Bush, even though they voted for him in a two-term presidency. A lot of Democrats and liberals like myself never supported George W. Bush at all. Never supported his policies or anything. We said the war was a farce, that he ducked Afghanistan in order to be in Iraq and complete his daddy's war. And I still stand by that today. And he wanted oil. Him and Dick Cheney, neocons, they celebrated it. Now, they wanted to change regimes and have America control over in the Middle East. And then, you created terrorists, which ISIS was created by George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. That's the origins of ISIS right there, because they destabilized a lot of those Middle Eastern countries, which they had the terrorists. Because when you really think about it, Saddam Hussein and them were killing terrorists. So policies that were set into motion, excuse me, in the mid 2000s affects today. Now let's fast forward to today. Trump had a problem with Obama even using military action against Syria a couple of years ago, and the Republicans. They were saying stuff like he needs to go through Congress, and he shouldn't start another war, casualties, money, all that stuff there was being said. Even Putin, his favorite buddy, was all co-signing protecting Syria. Now that was a couple of years ago. Now we can fast forward till today. Trump, they had terrorist attacks in Syria the other day, but Trump decides to do what George W. Bush did and Dick Cheney, was to go around Congress and and bomb Syria, do an illegal war, illegal military action, is what Trump did. Now, Trump to me did it because his 100-day policies have failed. His 100 days of office failed. With the health care bill failed. of his immigration status bill is failing at the wall thing is not really going too well with people. Banning Muslims from the United States is not going well. So Trump initially says, okay, like most neocons, let's just bomb Syria. Let's talk about terrorists. So we shift from the 100 days. Oh, and the legal Supreme Court nominee that they're putting up there. I forgot about that. And then they're legally putting a Supreme Court nominee into the courts. They changed the rules after 200 years in order to put a Supreme Court nominee on the bench illegally. So that's where the Republicans are going. And American voters, this goes back to earlier, never wanted change. The American voters they missed George W. Bush during the Obama years. This was a farce when they said they liked Obama. And they did probably like Obama and Michelle. I'm not doubting that. Maybe they liked them. But I think that this was nostalgic feeling for the American voter. And they were hoodwinked by a con man who, in turn, is with Bush. And I've told people this for a long time. A lot of conservative friends of mine are now saying stuff like, Kelly guy, you was right. This guy is like Bush. He's completing Bush's fourth term. Because Bush couldn't run for third term. I said fourth, but the third term, third and fourth, basically, because Obama did some things that Bush did too, but that's another story. But this guy is running a fourth term Bush term, and people thought there was going to get change with this guy. All Trump has done is push a deep right wing agenda, a deep right wing agenda that was building since the Bush administration. A lot of these congressmen of Congress, the House, and the Senate as the same individuals that was in office back then. So people never wanted change. They liked the same. Something that Obama said when he was running for president. People are ready for change, but people are really not ready for change because they were hoodwinked into voting for a man who initially does like George W. Bush, because he basically did a illegal war. He did a legal war. Only thing difference between him and Bush, Trump and Bush, and Dick Cheney is Trump is dumb. Now that's the difference between those two. You have a big, huge difference. One is stupid. The other one is, he's controlled too. He has smarter people around him. Because George W. was a little bit smarter than him, and he's more appealing. Trump is nothing more than an asshole, basically. He's like a Dick Cheney with steroids, basically. He says what he's going to do, and he doesn't. He doesn't really think about it, and he says it out of his mouth. But at the same time, he's pushing still a pure right wing. Because you guys got to understand, conservatism is not a unique thing. The same players that's been pushing the right wing agenda has been around for about 30 to 40 years. So the agenda has never changed and they never wavered from the agenda. People say, well, it's different. It's different today. I listen to people like Tariq Nasheed and other black YouTubers. They was like, well, this guy is pushing an alt right movement. And no, it's not really that. He's pushing a very, very conservative movement. It's not really an alt right movement. They're just pushing a agenda that's been really around since Clinton, since Reagan, since the George H.W. Bush, and all these other people. It's just now Obama's not president no more, and so they're returning back to the stuff they were doing before Obama was president. So it's not no alt right thing or we're because I was listening and I like Tariq though I'm not dissing Tariq either because I know people we want me to Tariq. It's just a critique of Tariq, so I'm critiquing him. He's like saying stuff on his show about they're pushing this alt right. No, they're not pushing it alt right. They're pushing an agenda that was already put in place. They're pushing an agenda of a conservative agenda. And what is a conservative agenda? Conservative agenda is cutting government spending by amounts of money, but with no ideal to back up their plan, because that's basically what being a conservative is. Being a conservative is cut spending, cut federal spending with no replacement. That's why you guys didn't see the health care bill go through, the health care repeal bill, Trump killed go through because Trump didn't want to kick everybody off of the health care bill. So he put his own version of the bill, even though they were kicking more people off. But the problem is, most conservative voters use Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and then Medicare, and it's cheaper in their Medicare plan. But that's another story. I don't want to get into that. But that's the basically conservative movement is to cut spending, but then not have a replacement for spending. If you're going to cut federal programs, then the private sector has to be able to grow. So that's always been a conservative movement. The private sector doesn't never grow though. That's the thing that conservatives never understood. It goes back to Warren G. Harding in the 1920s. He didn't understand that. Hoover didn't understand that. Many right wingers never understood that. I mean, they never did. Most you do have to spend federal monies in order to keep the government going. But that's the hypocrisy of Donald Trump and them. Then they have the industrial complex going on in the United States that they are pushing, which they say they don't push. These guys are not ready for real change. These guys are more of the same. And if Democrats were smart, Democrats will say Trump for jail, like they were doing Hillary Clinton, Trump for jail, because Trump has started a illegal war. He ducked Congress. He didn't go to Congress and approve anything. So he's doing basically the same thing as what he claims Bush is doing. These conservatives need a Middle Eastern war to complete their agenda. They need it. Banning the Muslims. And the only difference with Trump is he's going over the top, like banning Muslims from the country, and now we're going to bomb a Muslim country. And, that's to deflect away from his failed domestic policy. Because, again, Republicans and conservatives do not know how to govern properly. And you're seeing that just with this first 100 days. These voters thought they were getting real change, and they never got real change. And they're seeing that this is, people talk about Obama, black conservatives, and white conservatives, but Obama has had change. In this administration, it's more of the same. Cut spending, talk shit, complain about mainstream media, cut spending, and that's basically what these right wingers do. That's their whole model. Complain that they don't get enough news coverage, which they do get news coverage. They get more news coverage than a Democrat does. And then they complain that it's a liberal agenda when they got three chambers of Congress plus the Supreme Court. They even changed the rules with the Supreme Court. So Trump's conservative agenda is a Bush agenda that you're seeing on steroids. It's a Reagan administration, and the American people was hoodwinked once again by a conservative. Because again, where have we heard this from? Bush. We heard that he was going to be a change candidate, but it was more of the same of his dad's policies and Reagan's policies. So people voted for change when they didn't really get it, and it's going to be. And as the months go through, people will see the truth. I have a feeling the American people will be angry by at least the second year. So you're going to see that go. You're going to see that. You're going to see these Republicans, and people are going to complain. But again, I was looking at something on TV, but you're going to see the complaints going into the second or maybe third year of Donald Trump. I just think the American people, right now, people still like him. Right now, people still support Trump. They still are ready to push Trump's agenda. And so, trust me, it's not really, people are not that kind of mad. So, anybody that thinks that with America, they're not mad right now. That's a myth. They still like Trump because it's still early in the game, but we have more things to go. It's going to have to hit some of these people like George W. Bush. It took a while for GW to get exposed and Dick Cheney because for the first term, people really didn't hate Bush. You start to see the hate for Bush going into his mainly towards reelection. His reelection of going to his second term, you start to see more hate for Bush, but you didn't see it with Trump. You're seeing it a little earlier. But with Bush, you kind of didn't get it. But right now, people don't hate Trump. Right now, they're not really haters of Trump. Yes, you do have marches and different things like that, but he has a bunch of supporters still. People still believe in him. So we have to wait. And I think what Democrats are going to have to do, and liberals, and I've said this before, you guys are going to have to make Trump and we're gonna have to treat Trump like how America treated Hitler in the 1940s, make him sound like a joke. Democrats did fine by filibustering the Supreme Court. Now the Republicans changed the rules; they changed it. Let them do it because it has long term effects. Republicans are not going to always have the chambers of the House like this for the next 30, 40 years. So this is maybe a good thing because then when a Democratic president wants to push his Supreme Court justice in, they could do it without worrying about them filibustering. So in a way, it's some good news on that. That they changed the rules because they're going to be trying to change it back when they feel the need to. So Democrats will have to get on the job and use the propaganda machines that they have and start to really tear apart Donald Trump's policies and the Republicans' policies like they did in the 2000s to Bush. You got to treat him, and this guy is more of a live wire than Bush. That's the thing. This guy can't hold water, so it's easy to make him mad. It's easy to piss him off. It's easy to get him to not. So that's where the Democrats and liberals have sort of an advantage at. This guy is full of shit. So that's the thing. Excuse me, but like and share this video, people, and comment. Peace out.